what we built just sitting here in Bangalore is world's fastest and the largest assistive technology ecosystem. What if we create an organization which will help entrepreneurs? Now, helping one person is great as well. I'm sure in our personal capacity, we all help people. But what if you help one entrepreneur and that startup or entrepreneur can help 100,000 people? Imagine if we can help 100 entrepreneurs like this.
For today's episode of Success Documented, we have Mr. Prateek Madhav. With over 20 years of experience in the corporate and disability sectors, Mr. Prateek has held roles such as the CEO of Samarthan Trust and Assistive Technology Foundation, amongst others, during which he has positively changed over 9 lakh lives. Good morning. How are you today?
Good. Thank you, Shivan. Thank you for inviting me.
How's Jaipur been?
Oh, it's lovely. It's always lovely to be in the city where you grew up, and good winter cold. Can't forget to mention the sweets and the overload of gulab jamuns we have had since we've come here.
It's okay. You can run it off later.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, good. We just had a good run this morning to celebrate being in Jaipur. We also celebrated our 25th Silver Jubilee anniversary for our 25th graduation at MREC MNIT.
Okay.
So yeah, couldn't have been a better time to be here. But thank you again for inviting.
You like running a lot. What's that about? When did that start?
So started around 10, 12 years back. I do marathons. I've done 42 kilometers, run at various cities, different locations. I'm part of a running club in Bangalore. Off late, I started cycling as well. The aspiration is to do a triathlon and Ironman in next few years, but let's see how it goes. But yeah, running is the passion.
That's interesting. So just starting off, you've had a unique career journey transitioning from the corporate world to disability sector. Significant overlap between the two. You've bounced in between.
Right.
What valuable lessons did you learn from both, and what motivated you to go into the disability sector? So just tell us about that.
Sure. No, thank you for asking. See, I spent 18, 20 years with corporate, and they were good roles. Learned so much, stayed and visited and in different parts of the world. And corporate career always comes with set of learnings because it's exposure to not just the professional and the business world, but also you live in different cultures. And I believe the more diverse the culture, the more diverse the people you're interacting with, better the learning is. I've lived longest in the US near Boston as a part of the organization, which is now called Entity Data, where I was leading the sales in the New England region. And that was a phenomenal experience because best of both worlds, the family was around as well, but also good exposure in meeting so many people, handling relationships with clients in the New England region. After my MBA, I've been a part of Accenture, where I was a part of a global analytics team. We're building phenomenal tech to do many solutions for the business growth, revenue growth for different our clients, and we build a lot of IP in analytics and AI, and we did AI when obviously it wasn't as fancy as it is today, as a buzzword as it is today, but we had built these practices around different subject areas of finance, procurement, marketing, and so on and so forth. So corporate has been very good experience and learned so many things. I moved back to India in 2009, and that was because of personal reasons. And that's when I started volunteering for different organizations. Now I'll be lying if I sit here and say, Shivan, I designed my career so phenomenal, how intelligent I am that, transition from corporate to disability, there's no truth in it. I think a lot of it is serendipity, where I started volunteering for some of these organizations, and they happen to be a disability-focused organization in Bangalore. Now, as I was living with the community of people with disabilities, I started observing a lot of things. And unfortunately, our society is designed that we have kept people with disability very, separate than all of us. I mean, did you have anyone whom you studied or grew up with, who was a student with disability in your classes?
I mean, not specifically, not so much to be honest, but I have seen that even in the Western culture, maybe 100 years ago, people with disabilities were marked to be outcasts from
Yes.
society, which is really sad to see because they didn't do anything to be in the position they are right now. And yeah, I have seen that from an outsider perspective, no one specific.
Yeah. So and you would wonder even why. It's not that they cannot study. It's not that they are not intelligent. It's not that they do not have aspirations like you and I. It is just the configuration of a society where, and typically in India, we have seen a blind school at the corner of our colony.
Yeah.
We would only go there to celebrate our birthday and cut cakes, and then after the whole year, we won't even go there, or probably a few times. Now, if you keep a large section of a population isolated or that way, two things happen. Number one, we don't understand them, and our understanding about people with disability, somebody who's blind, is only through Bollywood, which is probably a very wrong, skewed perception.
Yeah.
But also, if you would have a person with visual impairment with a white cane crossing, you'd always say, should I help or not? Yeah. So we don't understand them. Imagine that person start studying with you in your class. Yeah. You wouldn't have an understanding for a large part of your life how to really behave, talk. Now, other thing is they won't understand you as well because they have lived with their community, which is the community of blind people, and they don't really understand the the world, which is you and I, and you would wonder why configure a society which is designed that way. Yeah. Now, these were the observation when I came back and I started volunteering. And the fun was we were a part of a small nonprofit that were in Bangalore, and we were also, apart from doing different things, also taking care of Indian blind cricket team. So I don't know if you have seen blind people playing cricket with a white ball which makes sound. And the founder of the organization went to Dubai actually to attend the annual general body meeting of the all blind cricket playing nations. There were 10 of them at that point. This was way back in 2012. And I'm sitting in Calcutta library, and I'm getting a call, said, what happened, Mr. Mantesh? And he says, Prateek bhai, apart from other things we discussed, one of the topics was who is going to organize the World Cup. And I stood up and said, India is going to do. And I said, what did you commit? Here's a gentleman who traveled from India to Dubai. The topic was which country is going to take up the task of, cricket, organizing the World Cup. And he committed to the world. 10 countries signed up, Shivan, that to do a first ever T20 World Cup cricket for the blind. And I said, oh my God. But look at the aspiration of an organization. Anyway, I graduated, came back, was sitting, and what does an MBA guy do? Make budgets. So I'm sitting with my laptop, 40 people in a room, all kinds of disability, night 12 o'clock, everybody saying ground will cost this much, hotel will cost this much. And I'm making this budget, and my total is just going
Up and up.
And at 1 o'clock in the night, and I'm just whispering in Mantis, and everybody's cheering, oh, we've got the World Cup rights and all that. And I whispered in Mantis, yeah, Mantis, sir, so what happened? This is 8 crore Indian rupees. And both were like puzzle organization, which is very small. Imagine a non-profit sitting in Bangalore aspiring to do a World Cup of it. Anyway, God had been very, very kind. So we went around, asked for help, some donations. The government of Karnataka helped. I had a friend in Pepsi, and he was kind enough to sponsor all the beverages. And somebody said, "Hey, you know what? Indian team is pride for us, and I'm going to sponsor." Anyway, long story short, Shivan, we were able to do a World Cup.
Wow.
Where 10 countries came in. So India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, South Africa, West Indies, Australia, New Zealand, all the cricket playing nations. we not only conducted the World Cup, Shivan, we won the World Cup and we beat Pakistan in final, which always is extra joy. Always extra joy. We all take it. Now, why I'm telling you this story is why almost started having a dichotomy in life. So in the morning time, I would do my corporate role, which, as you can imagine, is a very resourceful environment. All of us came from with good education, good backgrounds. We had decent resources to live life very happily and comfortably. But at a lunch table, people complain. In the evenings on the weekend, I was going to this organization where it was less resourceful environment. Sometimes people did not have the kind of education you and I have. They had very less opportunity to earn. But then they were happy people. And I said, how is it possible? This is very counterintuitive. That's where I started realizing that a lot of stuff which I had learned in corporate potentially could be applied in nonprofits as well. And it was not just one way. A lot of what I was learning in nonprofits, which essentially is really being very, very humble. These people had a lot of aspirations in life despite having less or no resources. Is when I said, I need to understand this world a little more. I started going and spending more time with these nonprofit organizations to realize that people like us can help. And that's the whole journey. Beginning of the journey after the World Cup is where I joined Samarthram as a full-time CEO after taking a break, a sabbatical from Accenture. So yeah, pass it back to you. So that's the beginning of the journey of being in nonprofit and disability.
So I don't know why. I just suspected maybe something from your childhood would have led to it, but that's not the case.
No, I'm just telling you, God has been really kind, and it is not designed the way it is appearing to be, and where I am. But I'm very, very thankful to God. I'm very, very thankful to a lot of people who helped me think through this journey, and I'm having a fun time.
That's great. So you talked about Samarth Trust, and you have a bunch of other current roles with Inclusive Innovation Network and AssisTech. So you're all across the board with different disability sector firms. Could you just tell us about all of them?
Sure. So just continuing the journey, I took a sabbatical from Accenture to be full-time CEO of Samarthanam, and in that year we grew the organization almost 3 to 5x. We established 15 centers of skilling for people with disability. They were including centers for skilling, where we not only had people with disabilities studying and getting skilled to find jobs, but also non-disabled person as well. Because again, to me, this design is so important to bring everybody together. We again didn't want to do a mistake of designing initiatives which are very only disability focused, because then the integration won't happen anyways. Yeah. So we grew the organization, and one experience, this is 2015-16, Shivan, we started to have is, since I was sitting in a nonprofit and I had a background of being in the tech industry and running businesses, a lot of innovators started to talk to me. Now, one example I love taking is these two tech innovators came to me and they took up their mobile, and this is 15-16. They said, Prateek, we have designed this mobile app. I said, okay. This mobile app will make blind people walk independently. I'm looking at them like, who are you? Like, I don't know if you know this, Shivan, that India, unfortunately, is the blind capital of the world. We have maximum blind and visually impaired people. And you can only imagine my response to such an innovation, saying that this world needs you. Like, where were you and who are you? Why are you doing this? And obviously, they had the story of having a cousin who became blind eventually, and they want to do something, for him or him. So, but then I called one of my friends who was 100% blind. I said, Chandu, please come here. Can you please go and test out this application? He care who's sitting in my room. And he just goes and comes back and he says, sir, ye kaam nahi karta hai. It doesn't work. And I said, see, user feedback. Yeah. And that's Startup 101, isn't it? Innovation 101, that you have to talk to your users while you design the tech. And And in fact, I mean, long story short, I started to notice and started to meet a lot more tech innovators in the industry. I went back to Accenture after my sabbatical, but I continued to meet a lot of innovators and startups, only to realize that the same phenomenal tech which you and I use in everyday life now, if you take a pause and think about it, um, how are we banking using mobile? When the last time you went to bank? If you're thinking, I've not gone recently. My father used to take half a day chutti to go to a bank in a month to withdraw the $500. Ask your father as well, probably. He used to do that as well. How are we ordering food? How are we traveling?
And everything.
Yeah, how are we consuming content?
That's true. Everything.
Yeah, so everything
People
is
don't even go to movie halls anymore.
absolutely. You think of a song and you're able to hear it. Talk to your grandfather, and he would jump out of his chair and saying that how is it even possible? We used to wait for a week to listen to that song if it comes on TV. But today you don't have patience of few microseconds, before that song plays. Now, if you look at the transformation just in last just 10 to 15 years, not just in India, globally, tech has enabled and made our life very, very easy. And I always I started thinking those years that if the same phenomenal tech can be used for the use cases in disability, possibly it can help as well. And that was the genesis of ATF, is when we said, what if we create an organization which will help entrepreneurs? Now, helping one person is great as well. I'm sure in our personal capacity, we all help people. But what if you help one entrepreneur and that startup or entrepreneur can help 100,000 people? Imagine if we can help 100 entrepreneurs like this. Imagine we can enable 1,000 startups like this. Is when we said we have to create an ecosystem in India, possibly a global ecosystem, which will enable entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs who are helping build solutions for people with disabilities. It was this whole thought. We started with just 15, 20 startups in India. Today, Shivan, long story short, ATF, AssisTech Foundation, which is registered as a non-profit based out of Bangalore, works with 450 such tech entrepreneurs in the country. We also have a global alliance called PlusIn, which is ATF from India. We have Remarkable from Australia. We have somebody in New Zealand, Kenya, Canada. South, then we have folks coming in and joining from different parts of Europe as well now. And we have a partner in Hong Kong, China as well. Imagine what we built just sitting here in Bangalore is world's fastest and the largest assistive technology ecosystem for AT entrepreneurs. So I think we are very proud of what we have been able to do. Obviously, a lot what we are able to do is not as is enabled by a lot of our partners. We work with the government, we work with different corporate organizations as well. But yeah, that's the whole fun, that we are taking the same phenomenal innovation, same fantastic tech, and applying to the use cases of independent mobility for blind people. One of few of our startups are using virtual reality gamification to have kids with autism learn better. We have bionic arms being made, which are high-tech bionic arms, which will be able to help the person who's an amputee do function as a normal hand. We have a lot of startups building tech for better communication for speech and hearing impaired as well, because it's very difficult to communicate if you don't know a sign language as well. So yeah, there's the same phenomenal tech is changing lives, Shivan, but yeah, we're very happy that we are able to build that ecosystem in India and outside.
Now, ATF was opened around 2018?
2018, 2019, yes.
And how's your journey been since then within ATF? You had meetings with Rahul Dravid and many other notable people. How's that been?
I think, like I said, Shivan, my journey has been great. There are 1.4 billion people with some or the other kind of disability in the world. In India, depending on whom we are talking, we'll get different numbers, but by some estimates, you're talking about 80 to 90 million people with disabilities. It's a large section of population. We like to think of this as world's biggest or minority.
Mm.
Yeah, think of it. Think of a country like India, where probably that nation of that population, a country as big as India, everybody has some other kind of disability. It's a large problem. Now, when we think about this population, I also like to tell you that disability is not an issue. Accessibility is an issue. Attitude is an issue. Perceptions are an issue. A lot of time when we see a person with disability, people think of how would that person study? How would that person travel? Now, if I was on wheelchair, I couldn't come to your apartment here because by the time I have gotten down, there's no accessibility. It's not my inability to come to your apartment. It's not your inability to host me. It's just that shared infrastructure inaccessibility. Think of it. It's not that if I were blind, you and I go for a movie, you will have to verbalize the whole movie to me. I'm sure people are not going to like both of us. Yeah. It's not my ability to not enjoy this content. It's the movies or the platform's inavailability of accessibility, by which I'm not able to enjoy. So disability is not an issue. Now, how do we solve this conundrum? How do you solve a problem which has to be, it was 1.4 billion people or 80, 90 million people? I believe while technology has changed our life, technology can also change the lives of people with disability. And assistive technology is a big enabler. Yeah, imagine the same movie which can be audio described by a technology startup in a portfolio, where you watch a movie, you don't have to verbalize me. I put the handset, and it's all audio describing the movie without disturbing anyone. Imagine a briefcase kind of a ramp which would have enabled me, if I was on wheelchair, to come to your flat flawlessly. It's a briefcase. You just open it, use the ramp, fold it, and just come back. Wow. As well. And hence, while I'm also giving you examples of the problem, I'm also trying to give you an examples of assistive technology and startups which are enabling that access. Now, to answer your question, journey has been great because I said for 20, 25 startups to 450 startups itself is a huge uplift in terms of number of people who are trying to solve the problem of people. Now, who are these people? I'm sure you would wonder. Like, why are they building tech while they can be anywhere else working for different, corporate organizations? And that's where I think we are very excited, because a lot of time these folks who are innovators and entrepreneurs are very, very passionate. They are in it because sometimes they have their lived experiences. We have some startups who are founded by people with disabilities. Wow. So they are not just trying to solve their own problems, they're trying to solve the problems of millions of others in the world. And how amazing is that? There are a lot of people who also are not disabled, but they are building this tech because they have experiences in families, somebody going blind, and somebody probably losing the hearing and all that. So they're very passionate, but passion doesn't build the business. Just 20-30%. And hence they need that kind of guidance. They need that mentorship. And today, when we are talking about 450 to 500 people or entrepreneurs in India, through Plus and Network, 1,200 plus startups, we are saying we're seeing the trend that they're using number one contemporary tech. And all these 450 are not based out of tier one towns in India. We have seen, we run an acceleration program, which hopefully we're going to talk about, where we get applications from not just tier two, tier three, but tier four towns as well. So there's a lot of democratization of technology that's happening. Yeah. Third, we are seeing that not everybody is, unlike before, not everybody is building solutions for one kind of disability. And it was Bollywood impact or whatever, a lot of solutions for blind people used to come. But today we are seeing, in our world, we say visible disability, which is obviously the visual impairment, physical disability, but we also have large population with invisible disability, which essentially is the autism, learning disabilities, and all that. We're very, very happy that through our work with different universities and organizations, we are also able to encourage and build ecosystem where tech entrepreneurs are building solutions for invisible disabilities as well, because that's something which is on rise, unfortunately. Yeah. So I think we are very happy that it's just not the number of entrepreneurs. We are happy because there's a democratization of tech. There is contemporary tech of AI, ML, AR, VR, computer vision that's being used. We are happy because it's just not very one-sided development, of tech in one disability. We're also seeing a lot of people developing solutions, like I said, for neurodiversity, neurodevelopment as well. And yeah, I mean, we are with everything which we do, as you know, Shivan, we are already reaching 1 million people impact. So we're very happy that the model has started working well. We just scratched the surface, probably even not that. And our aspiration as an organization obviously is much higher. But yeah, we're very happy to see the whole ecosystem growing.
I mean, it's going to be exponential at this point. Each year is going to double.
Yes.
I believe last year was like 4.5 lakhs. This year it's 9. So
Yes.
next year hopefully it doubles on top of that, and you'll be at 80 million before you know it. But one thing I wanted to touch upon is the stigma against disabled people. I saw this movie on Netflix. I'm not even sure about its name. Mama and Papa were watching. I just came.
Shrikant.
Shrikant.
Yes.
I think at the start, he was born blind and they almost buried him.
Yes.
That broke my heart. That was like, how could you do such a thing? Right? And he went on to do great things in life. But that also kind of, I think, online sources such as Instagram, Netflix, these have enlightened people as to what problems disabled people have and how they can be integrated into society. So I think it's partly due to the organic nature of social media that people now want to help others.
Sure.
So that's why you might see a rise of people who aren't particularly associated to disabilities in any way, even with family connections, who want to help out. And I think that's one of the good things social media has done.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. So you've told us about what ATF does. It's a truly unique organization. So it must have come with its unique set of issues and setup, hiring, being a nonprofit. How do you structure that to pay your employees while making an impact, all of that?
Right.
How has that been?
So, see, when we thought of establishing ATF, it was even, difficult to even describe what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because disability world has been largely seen as charity, pity. And the point of view which we were trying to bring in is that it is not charity. You can build tech which can help, but you can also make it profitable. So the point of view and the new thinking was the thinking of innovation, thinking of building sustainable organization which will just dual purpose, Shivan. I mean, today we are able to prove so many times in ATF in last 6-7 years that it's very, very viable to build a profitable business with purpose. There's so many examples in front of us. But obviously, awareness has been a big issue. I mean, earlier in the conversation, we were talking about awareness being so poor um, about disability itself. Now, here we are trying to bring tech, business, nonprofits, and startup. It's something which is difficult to even describe. In fact, it's a joke where I used to tell this my introduction, and then people used to give me a blank face and say, "So what do you do?" And I said, "Okay, hold on. We all have studied Venn diagram. So imagine 4 concentric circle: startup, business, disability, and technology. Wherever there is a intersection is where ATF." And they used to give me like a half satisfactory look, saying that okay, because for them the moment you say disability, it goes to charity, and I was totally talking a different language that time. But anyways, long story short, today we've been able to do a lot of work in the community. And like you said, social media, movies like Shrikant have really helped us bring leaders like Rahul Dravid, who's been a champion and a brand ambassador of ATF for many, many years. They've all have been kind in helping us build that whole awareness. Yeah. And so that's one challenge which we need to probably do more work on, but I'm very, very happy that, we've made significant progress. The second thing is the investment. Now, investment in disability itself has been so low, and you and I do not have to debate it. Look, try to walk around on a wheelchair in city Jaipur and Bangalore. It's difficult for us to walk. You cannot walk. So infrastructure accessibility has been an issue, and there are a lot of other challenges for people with disabilities. Like if you are a speech and hearing impaired, try going to a bank and opening an account. While all of us claim that opening a bank account is like a minute's job now. Like how would you even start the conversation? Because think of small issues. If you're in a wheelchair, you cannot even get into the bank or any other.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So think of very basic everyday life issues, and we haven't done a good job in making things accessible and integrating people with disabilities. Building an ecosystem like ATF is a next big challenge, because here we're talking about using technology as a lever, startup as a change agent to create the impact. But who's investing? People think while we are non-profit, all our startups are for-profit organizations. So we are actually mentoring them to stand on their feet, figure out a monetization, unit economics, the same language which we talk to other commercial startups. But then we've seen traditionally a lot of VCs do not think this as a large enough market. While we are talking about 1.4 billion people, WHO says, Shivan, that there are 2.5 billion people who would need assistive technology. This includes not just people with disabilities, this includes seniors, this includes people with temporary disability. Somebody meets with an accident, need a wheelchair for 3 months. This also includes people who are late disabled as well, not born disabled. So it's a large enough population, but because of some notions which obviously they've seen, the society not being integrated, these set of startups, there are different asset class obviously, are not being considered investable. Now, we have seen, and it's been the data and the research is available, if you invest $1 or 1 rupee in a technology, an assistive technology, you can get 9. So it's a 1:9 as a return rate. Obviously, we are not talking about the venture capital, we are talking about patient capital. So we have to, as society, as community, as business, have to invest that patient capital in all these startups. So investment has been a big issue, but I'm really, again, happy to share with you that very recently we've got approval from the government of India. Wow. So ATF is now creating first ever seed fund for assistive technology startups. This, in 2025, we are going to partner with central government, DPIIT, in a scheme called Startup India Seed Fund. So we just got that approval. We are setting that up, and this is probably going to be the first attempt to create a formal fund. So that's an issue of investment which we're trying to solve, working with the government and the private investors. Yeah, I think these are the couple of issues I would,
Was there any moment with ATF where you're like, maybe I shouldn't do this? Maybe this is not cut out for me. Was there ever a moment like that towards the start sometime?
So I'll come back to your question, but I think ATF is like running a marathon.
Wow.
You start fresh. You start with a lot of confidence. You slept well. First 10 kilometers is a breeze. Then 21, which I'm sure in a practice runs we do so many times. I've also had a good fortune of training a lot of people for marathons as well as a coach. And I always used to ask this question to them that while you're attempting to run your first 42-kilometer marathon, um, what's half of 42? And obviously, in a group, a bunch of people, if you ask this, what's half of 42? Most of them won't respond 20, but one or two people will say 21. And I said, the reason I have asked this question, that what is half of 42, I'm sure answer is not 21. And I always used to think, and I used to tell, and that's what I've learned from my coaches as well. In marathon journey, half of 42 is 32. 32 is where your marathon starts.
Mm.
Anyway, let's move to ATF. I think ATF is a journey like that. There are so many moments where you think it's impossible to reach 42. There are so many moments where you say it's a dead end. I still hear 9 out of 10 no's, but that I live and begin my day with a lot of positivity. I again live and begin my day with a lot of positivity and runs with a lot of positivity for that one yes. And I think the brilliance of sunrises, the brilliance of fellow runners, the brilliance of conversations, the cool wind in the in your face is what motivates you to go and run. You don't run 42 after 32. After 32, only 33rd kilometer comes in. And that's how sometimes you live your journey. After 33, I do not think about 42. I think about 34. There's no way I'm going to reach 44. And that's how ATF's journey has been.
That reminds me of sorry to cut.
Yeah, please.
That reminds me of a quote by an alcoholic. His son's like, "Are you gonna be sober for the next 10 years?" He's like, "I don't know. What I know is I'm gonna be sober today."
Absolutely. Yes, you live each day. And believe me, it is such an amazing thought. What you also shared is you sometimes live each day, each month, each week. And sometimes you would think a problem what you're trying to solve is something which is going to offer you dead end and you're not going to move forward. A new morning, a new kilometer offers you that hope.
Mm.
That's how it is. So it never, at any point I said, this is not going to work. In fact, this is a place where I feel so optimistic, so enthusiastic that the problem which you're trying to solve is very, very large. Shivan, I am no Superman. I do not have aspiration to be thinking like a person that I'm going to alone solve the problem. And that's where the fun is, because when you go out, there are a lot of good people who are helping you out. Look at ATF board. They're all phenomenal people along with me who have committed to the cause. We have a advisory called Friends of ATF. We have 17 leaders from the, there are who's who of the business world and a lot of people with disabilities. They have committed to this cause. There are 70 mentors in our ecosystem who are available to help our startups. So look at the ecosystem which you build. It's not a company. It's not just a non-profit. It's just not one program. It's an ecosystem we are building. It's going to take time. It's going to have those challenges. It's going to have those problems of which is 10x or 100x then building one startup. Imagining difficulty of building one startup. We are trying to build 1,000 startup ecosystem. It's going to have 1,000x problems as well. Yeah. So I'm not sitting here saying that everything is going to go fine. I'm actually, I still bang my head on the wall so many times in a week, and I love it because that it's not about only building the ecosystem. Think of how much as an individual I'm learning. I'm getting to meet amazing people, lovely conversation like this one. And you learn, improve as a person when you meet different people who are different than you are. And those conversations always lead into some solutions together. So yeah, I think that's what I'm excited about.
That's great. You talked about the ecosystem, incubating a bunch of startups. Could you tell us about how that technically works?
Sure.
How you started off, how it's developed, all of that?
Sure. So one of our initial programs even was a acceleration program for technology startups, for-profit startups who are building solutions for people with disabilities. Now, why not incubator? Why accelerator? Because when we started working with a lot of these entrepreneurs, we realized that today the ecosystem of entrepreneurship ecosystem in India is very matured. To help build an idea which is very, idea stage to a pilot stage. You're able to get few lakhs of grants through Startup India, Invest India, a lot of private organizations who are giving grants as well. So I think we are also seeing emergence of so many entrepreneurs. Like there were just 400 startups in 2012, and then we are talking about, more than 100,000 startups today. And we said when we are building this ecosystem for assistive technology innovators, we are not going to build it again, do the same mistake of building in silos. We have to mainstream it as well. So we're building this ecosystem while the commercial ecosystem of startup is growing as well. So we're latching on to the whole excitement, on the commercial side. And hence, all our entrepreneurs are able to take their ideas to a little pilot. But what they're not able to a lot of time figure out is what's the product market fit? How do you make these solutions real? Because it's easy for you and I to do a retail tech or a e-com startup, but it's so impossible for Shivan and Prateek to do a startup in disability because while we can be the phenomenal technologists, but we don't have lived experiences. So how would you build a solution for a blind people while you and I have not experienced blindness?
There's a disconnect.
Yeah, it's a huge disconnect. And hence he said, if we create a program where we have four pillars, one, disability. So we connect all the tech entrepreneurs with the disability community. So they live there, they understand their pain point, they understand their aspirations. What does a day in a life of a person with visual impairment look like? You can only experience it if you are able to live that day with him or her. Yeah. Second is technology. Now, we've realized that this tech entrepreneurs are technically okay, but they're not technologists when it comes to using AI, machine learning, computer vision, and all that kind of contemporary tech. They are not experts. So hence, we are bringing a lot of experts from Microsoft and Accentures and different, good technology organization, free of cost to these entrepreneurs to help mature their product and technology from as well. Third, business, because at the end of the day, you can build the best tech product, but if you're not able to figure out unit economics, if you're not able to figure out distribution, the whole monetization, and in this case, how uncool it is. Think of it, Shivan, that you're building a phenomenal tech product for somebody who can't pay. So you have to figure out what's the business model going to look like, who's going to pay for it. Now,
Distribution.
Yeah, distribution as well. Because India is 70% of people with disability live in rural areas. How are going to distribute the product? And also, a lot of time, the fourth pillar, apart from disability, tech, business, is a pillar of organization culture. We've realized that these entrepreneurs are first generation entrepreneurs. They have no experience. They are CEOs because they are the founders of the organization, but then they have no experience in building the culture. How do you recruit? Like, who wants to join a not non-funded disability tech startup who's struggling anyways on all the fronts? So how do you really attract talent? How do you attract those passionate people? How do you find those passionate people who will align to your cause and help you build what you're building? And that's where we conceptualize acceleration program. Uh, we have 54 startups today in our portfolio who are building solutions for various kind of disabilities. I think in 54, I would say around 20, 22 of them together would have raised 100 crores already. They have 49 to 50 patents, 120 products. They have around 15 to 16 them are today global organizations because we have also given them market access to not just in India, but outside India as well. So that's a program which has started working very, very well. And we also collaborate with Plus and Global network because they have a lot of startups in their portfolio as well. So there are a lot of cross-country thinking, thought leadership in terms of solving the problems together. That's beginning to happen as well.
And where do you find that balance between, we're working in the disability sector, but we're a for-profit organization? Where do you find that balance for most?
No, I think it's a great question. See, like I said, profits with purpose. Now, the fundamental thought which we should acknowledge today, Shivan, is that disability can happen to any of us. While in countries like in India, we have strong correlation between disability, access to capital, access to education, access to employment is very, very less. Access to healthcare is less. And hence, if you are born disabled in India, everything is costly to you. Yeah, even buying a packet of milk is costly to you. Yeah. But if you wear the hat of a tech entrepreneur, assistive technology tech entrepreneur, you'll realize that three models. It's not a lot of time in disability tech, we talk about affordability, which is the question and the balance which you're asking. But I think of it as not just affordability, I think of it as business model problem. And there are three options if you're building a tech for people with disability. Number one, if you build a good tech and a person can pay, because disability can happen to any of us, the person goes and buys and pay you that. A person may or may not be able to pay at that point. And let me take an example and make it real for you. Is we had a tech startup called NeoMotion from IT Chennai. They built a wheelchair, which is an Indian road condition, amazing, design wheelchair, and we also had them built a scooter. So think of a person who has spinal cord injuries. Within house, he or she can move around with a wheelchair. The moment he or she has to go out, it's a battery-operated scooter which you can take it out. Now, obviously, it can't be a product story. We had them sign up partly with a food delivery company, and thousands of such people are actually now earning money. So it's not just a product story, Shivan. It is a livelihood-enabled story. Now, let me come back to the business model question. If a NeoMotion wheelchair and a scooter, if somebody can buy it, it's ₹1 lakh. People buy it and then they live their livelihood and life independently. A lot of time people can't buy it then. Okay, you pay ₹500, $1,000, and then you pay a EMI to a financial institution because you're going to get employed and you're going to earn 20,000, 25,000. You pay EMI, and at some point that vehicle is yours and you continue to earn. Third, where you can never pay is where the corporate social responsibility money comes in, is where we partner with various amazing organizations like HDFC, Bajaj, Finserv, Unisys, Infosys, and several others who are wonderful partners who are helping us make this technology available to people with disability who cannot afford. So I think that's where the balance
That makes a lot of sense. So I think I told you about Beyond Sight, which is it's a small startup from my school. We have a lot of disability-based startups, and they created this sort of intuitive small machine for note scanning. Because the app that we currently have online, their accuracy is like 75%, and that's not. So they achieved something like 99% accuracy with note scanning. And I'm like, this is 900 rupees. Like, maybe people won't see the value. They're like, you can save 500 rupees 5-6 times and you'll save the money from purchasing it. So you have to kind of understand that balance, I guess. And
absolutely.
Absolutely. You've explained it perfectly. So now you've told us about probably 5-6 different startups at this point. What's your favorite? What's helped the most people, whatever criteria you have?
Yeah, I think it's like you have two kids. Who's your favorite? So it's a tough question to answer. Hopefully they don't listen to me answering this question, and I'm saved. See, there are several of them, Shivan, but one or two probably I'll mention is a startup called Trestle Labs. I known the founders. They're now husband and wife, Bonnie and Akshita. The difficulty with a lot of people or students with visual impairment is a lot of the content is physical. So a lot of books which are printed. Now, if the student with visual impairment, he or she obviously can't access to that. So they developed an amazing tech, which is now the product is called Kibo, Knowledge in a Box. And what Kibo does is it's like a lamp kind of device. You can put any book. So you put a book in English, it can real time start reading, audiotizing it in any language.
Wow.
So imagine, and this tech is today available in 60 languages. So you can put a book in German, it can read you in Tamil. You can put a Tamil book, it can start reading in Gujarati. You can put a Gujarati book, it will start reading in English. And so it's vice versa. Now, imagine the transformation this kind of technologies can cause. One, there is that tech, you can audiotize it, you can save that in cloud or in your mobile. Now, a blind person traveling in bus can save the lesson in the mobile, and without anybody else being even aware, he's finishing a lesson while he's traveling in the bus as well. Yeah, a lot of content that is being shared on platforms like WhatsApp, images, PDFs are not accessible. It has a online 360 keyboard 365 version where you can pass this any image or any PDF. It will make it searchable. It can and make it accessible. So what you send me on WhatsApp can image I can read through, but if I'm blind, I can't. It can audiotize it as well.
Wow.
So imagine what Kibo is doing, what Tristle Lab is doing through this technology is transforming lives. Now, we have seen examples of people preparing for civil services, becoming IAS. The same person who's this person with visual impairment getting posted in Tamil Nadu, and he takes the keyboard with himself because he's saying it's not just for a visual impairment. All the documents are in Tamil. I don't know Tamil, so he just puts the Tamil document and start reading in Gujarati or English as well. So imagine the transformation it can cause. Now as we are speaking, Shivan, that technology, Tristle Lab is already helping 70 to 80,000 people, visual impairment people. We are putting the keyboard device in some thousand libraries with help of Government of Karnataka as well. And this is a tech which we have started exporting as well. So it's being available in at least 15 to 18 countries already. It's a global startup. I think we are hoping that such technologies, while they are transforming lives, in India, will probably transform lives across the world as well. That's probably they're my favorite.
That's really interesting.
Thank you.
So you've mentioned that the development of assistive technology could significantly boost India's annual GDP. Could you tell us how this growth would materialize, how it would actually tangibly happen?
Sure. So if you see the landscape of disability in India, it's unfortunate that despite having skills and willingness, 75 or 76% of people with disabilities never get employed. Now, if you think of putting efforts in skilling them, employing them, what would happen? And I took NeoMotion's example. People were sitting at home, not even being recognized in their own families. Now they're going out and delivering food. So they're not just earning for themselves, they are bringing that money home, they're getting married, they're building houses, and that money is getting added to the GDP. Yeah.
Okay.
Now think of just few thousands of people are able to do well, but if you are able to enable millions of people today, by some statistics, if we can put people with disabilities in jobs, we will add 5 to 7% of GDP.
Yeah.
And it's just not the economic benefit, Shivan. Imagine in a world we are talking of disability, we're talking about 1:5 is an impact. If one person with disabilities is being helped, we have 5 more people adding to the economy. And I'll make it real and give you an example. Typically, if a person with disability is identified as disabled person, you would have seen the whole family gets to help. One parent, and typically, unfortunately, in our world, mothers, for their whole life, they leave their profession, they leave anything else they do. They'll always be around as a special, person to who's taking care. Imagine if you're enabling a person with disability, he or she gets free as well.
Oh, yeah.
So their caregivers, their special educators get to do a lot more things. And hence they get back to their jobs and adding stuff to GDP as well. So imagine it's just a multiplier effect. If you enable one person with disability, what kind of sea change or ripple effect you can cause and help the economy as well. So I think that's the way we look
Yeah,
at it.
that's a very good explanation of it. Mm. And again, we talked about a lot earlier where you worked in building AI when it wasn't AI today. Now that AI is glorified everywhere, I had to ask a question.
Yeah.
How is AI going to be assisting the disability sector in terms of assistive technology?
Yeah, I think with AI, we've seen the whole sea change where it was such an innovative technology, and some people are probably comparing AI as the invention of steam engines and all that. I think it's true in some senses as well. But I think the some part of the world we are thinking or AI is devil, and I'm here to tell you it is not true. AI is a boon for people with disabilities. Imagine independent mobility solutions, which I was talking to you about. There is a startup called ID. There's another startup called SHG. There's a startup called Sunbot out of Gujarat. All of them have developed a small device for visually impaired people, which get attached to your specs here. It uses video and audio as an input, and it uses your mobile as a AI processing engine, and it is self-learning. So it's going on, you're going on the road and it's self-learning. It's able to, it's an object identification in both an external and internal environment. So it's also identifying there's a car on the right, there's a pole on the left, and it's self-guiding through audio output through this through bone conduction handset. Yeah. So imagine such the power of the tech which I just described to you. People with visual impairment will be able to are able to move around independently. In the indoor environment, if I'm sitting in front of you, I'm a blind person. If I'm using that technology, I'm able to face recognize you. I'm able to voice recognize you. So, 5 year, later, if I meet you, I'll be able to detect. If I've saved your profile, I'll be able to face and voice detect you, and I'm going to say, "Hey, Shivan, how are you? By the way, I mean, we had a wonderful conversation back in 2024 December, sitting at your home, having this conversation." And so that's the power of tech. There's a lot of technology for brain computer interface is being used as well, where we are able to, obviously there are technologies we're able to think and control a lot of electronics at home, switch on the lights, control the washing machine and stuff like that. I think this a lot of more research needs to be done. Obviously, we are also talking about examples of AI being used in developing a virtual bot or a virtual agent avatar, where in a virtual call, that virtual avatar will be able to do sign language on the go. And so it's a tough problem to solve, even as simple as it looks like or sound like, because sign language is not just hand gestures, it's shoulders, eyes, and all that. Imagine I'm able to have a conversation with you where a virtual avatar is actually doing the sign language. I'm able to actually understand everything which you're saying. Wow. While I'm speech and hearing impaired. So I think there's very matured use cases of AI, ML, computer vision, which are coming into play. And we're very happy that the ecosystem which we are building is not, again, those ecosystem on the sides. We are mainstreaming it. We're using the same contemporary tech in disability use cases as well. But as I say, I'm very, very excited that all these technologies are enabling people with disabilities as much as they're enabling us to do, and making our life easy as well.
Mm-hmm. So just a couple of questions to wrap up now. What's your advice to any young entrepreneurs who want to enter the assistive technology sector? I gave you an example from my school. What's your advice to them?
I think number one, we have to, what are we building? We are building a tech solution for people with disabilities. Never build a solution for people with disabilities. Always build a solution with people with disabilities. Involve them in very early as a design time. You don't want to be building a fantastic tech which nobody wants it. Yeah. And hence involving the community of people with disabilities, their parents, the special educators, caregivers is so important in building a good tech, but a real tech which helps. Without that, I have seen even the best of technology institutions in India have built amazing tech, nobody uses them,
Mm.
even the ITs. Yeah. And hence, making the solution real is only possible when you involve the community of people with disabilities at every step of your development. I think that would be one of many advices, but I'll keep it.
Yeah, that's one. But I would like to also hear one for the business side of things.
Yeah, sure. See, today, and earlier we spoke about it, that we need to be smart enough to figure out the monetization. A lot of time, assistive technology is close to health tech and med tech as well. So a lot of our portfolio startups are building solutions which will take 18 months to do some ethical trials and all that. A lot of time, the investment of time, effort, money is a lot more than any other field, and hence we need to be smart about building technologies. And for example, some of those devices may people may not be able to invest 10 to 20 lakhs. For example, a startup which is building intelligent physiotherapy solutions, that device would probably cost a bomb. So we need to think about rental model, pay-per-use model. So we need to think about smart monetization models. And I think if we are able to experiment with large hospitals, clinics, physios chains, and all that, we should be able to figure out a method which works. I mean, which is probably unknown today. So being smart about your monetization strategy is going to be a key for assistive technology startups. Otherwise, you can have the best solutions, but if you're not able to figure out that whole thing, it's not going to work.
That's insightful. And last question: what's your vision for the future of ATF?
So, like I said, Shivan, there are 1.4 billion people with disabilities in the world, and we're talking about 2.5 billion people needing assistive technology, where only 10% of them have access to assistive technology today. Now, how do we solve such a large, problems of such a large population? And while ATF has built this ecosystem, we are very excited that this ecosystem is scaling very well, as you can see. In just last few years, we are able to reach 1 million people. Our aspiration is to build a unicorn ecosystem. And by unicorn ecosystem is not the billion-dollar unicorn ecosystem or billion people unicorn ecosystem as well. So we want to invest in building this ecosystem, which can be then enhanced by many other organizations in India and outside. But this ecosystem will be a billion people impact ecosystem is what is the aspiration of ATF as we speak, and we are very excited that kind of innovations we are seeing, the kind of people we are getting in, who are getting involved, the kind of partnerships in India and global which we are just able to establish. We have no doubt that in next 2030 and 2040 is going to be very, very different and inclusive, much more inclusive for people with disability if we are able to aspire to build this unicorn impact ecosystem. So that's really the aspiration.
Yeah, that reminds me of my conversation with Mr. Ranganath Thota. He's from Fuel a Dream. And he said, I asked him, like, are you afraid you'll become too numbers oriented? He's like, no, I want to be numbers oriented, just the right numbers, how many people I impact, how many lives I change. And that's great. Where can people track your journey to 1 billion? Where can people track it?
Oh, I think you can track it in our website. You can track it in our social media as well. So
LinkedIn, you would want.
Yes. No, I think just go to ATF's LinkedIn website, and I'm available, to have a conversation as well. So my email ID is prateek@atflabs.org. Probably you can put it in your, notes as well. But thank you very much.
It was great having you on.
Thank you, Shivan. Thank you for inviting.
Ready to see you change lives.
Yeah, thank you very much.